Program. Do you remember way back when we showed you how George Soros was pumping money into Petrobras? That's the Brazilian oil company. But then he announced, I sold my spooky dude shares of Petrobras, and he was out. So it was totally cool. Everybody could relax. There's nothing to see here, people, when President Obama indicated that he was helping Petrobras secure loans. Then he approved a permit for the Brazilian oil company so they could store some of its oil in the Gulf of Mexico, which we can't do, while at the same time stopping American companies from doing that very thing with a moratorium that has destroyed at least 19,000 jobs. You remember all that? Then, do you remember when President Obama went to Brazil when we started bombing Libya? He was like, I gotta go kick the soccer ball in Brazil. Remember that? That's when the president congratulated the country on its recent oil discoveries, saying that we want to be Brazil's best customer. And I'm thinking, no, we don't. We want to sell to Brazil, not buy from Brazil. But remember, Soros was D-O-N-E, done. I'm done with Petrobras. Remember? Petro who? I don't even know what you thought. Here's the latest headline from Forbes. Soros builds on Petrobras, the holdings in the first quarter. So wait a minute, he sold it when we exposed it, then the president did it, and then he bought back in. Wow, I thought he was all done with that. Huh. Now he only owns 1.1 million shares of the company. What is to look at here? I had nothing to do with it. I'm sure you didn't. It's not connected in any way, shape, or form at all to the administration's continued support of the Brazilian oil company that you're a big, huge investor in. No. And no way connected to the expanding of the offshore deepwater drilling stuff. No. Stop it. You are a crazy tea partier. That's what you are. Get out of here, knucklehead. Hello, America. Good to have you here. I want you to mark your calendars and get ready to gather around your radio and television sets like the good old days. Because you're going to hear the voice of our president tomorrow. He is going to grace America with his words. Tomorrow, very important speech. It is his historic speech. That's why he's booked it for 11:40 a.m. Eastern Time. President Obama is going to address the nation on the historic moment for opportunity that we have in the Middle East. Oh, be still my heart. He's not going to talk about that Arab Spring, is he? He's going to briefly touch on the Israeli-Palestinian peace talks. But then the focus, according to the spokesman, Jay Carney, will be this.
An opportunity for us to explain to the world what our values are and the values and the principles that we bring to the region as we decide what policies this administration, this country should pursue to support that change.
Okay, I'm so glad to hear this because I don't even know what our values and principles are in the Middle East. I have no idea. I can't wait to hear them. Do you know what our values and principles are anymore? Do you? Because I do know the president is going to announce debt cancellation, which I was very excited to hear because I thought, oh, thank goodness somebody's going to cancel our debt. Whew. And then I realized, no. We're canceling their debt, which means we just eat it in the end. And he's also going to be reprogramming the financial aid packages to the region. Yeah, at first that might sound good too, but then you realize it's Barack Obama, and so what is he doing? He's going out to King Abdullah. Yesterday, he pledged $1 billion, your tax dollars, to Jordan. I don't have that, do you? Part of that package involves us sending them 50,000 metric tons of wheat. That is a nice gesture. I mean, it would be completely insane for a country to do that, if it had just crashed through the debt ceiling and borrowing everything from China. I mean, you got nothing on us, and let's say, I don't know, let's just say there was like a 500-year size flood that was happening on hundreds of miles of Well, let's call it the Mississippi River, destroying hundreds of thousands of acres, causing about $2 billion in crop damage alone, costing billions in lost transportation delays. And, of course, we have the whole food shortage scare anyway. It'd be crazy if any of that stuff was happening, to send all that wheat over to Jordan, you know, to feed them, especially if they hate us. Good thing that's not happening, huh? Another thing that makes no sense, according to some reports, Obama will oppose the UN's resolution that would recognize Palestinian statehood. Now, I'll go on this one here, because Obama has indicated clearly his support for that two-state solution, so maybe I'm misunderstanding.
Last year, I pledged my best efforts to support the goal of two states.
Two states.
Israel
and
Palestine. This time we should reach for what's best within ourselves.
Yes.
If we do. When we come back here next year, we can have an agreement that will lead to a new member of the United Nations, an independent, sovereign state of Palestine,
there it is,
living in peace with Israel.
There it is. That would be September. That'd be 9/11 at the UN. Sounds pretty clear. Why the change here? I mean, other than, we've got to force this president to do what he wants to do. You know what I'm saying? It couldn't have anything to do with the fact that he's having this speech tomorrow, with the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu asked to come and speak before Congress. I wonder, did the president know he was going to speak before or after Benjamin Netanyahu asked to speak? I wonder. That's a big political game, isn't it? Yeah. Well, Benjamin Netanyahu's got to be excited, because if his trip goes anything like last time, Obama's going to skip the photo ops and bail on dinner, and, you know, Benjamin Netanyahu will be going, my tumbly is a little grumbly right now. Where's the president? I don't know. But it'll give Prime Minister Netanyahu a chance to hang out with great dignitaries like, I don't know, Jay Carney, you know, or maybe even this guy. I don't even know who that guy is, but he's at the White House. If he's lucky, that guy could have dinner with you, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Or if you're really fortunate, and I don't know if we can do this, because he's usually tied up with the president giving advice and sage wisdom, but what do you think? We could set up a meeting between you and Fareed Zakaria. I'm telling you, Benjamin Netanyahu, we can get it done. Unless he's busy. Well, I'd see how that would be crazy. Because if Fareed was meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu, then Benjamin Netanyahu, you know, would ask him for his advice, and Fareed would then have to go on CNN and say, hey, I'm being asked the advice and my sage wisdom by the Prime Minister of Israel. So I have no credibility talking at all about Israel or anything like that, because then what would happen? See, you would have no credibility, because he would have been meeting with him over and over and over again, getting advice on certain things. That's not happening with the president, is it, in Fareed? No, that's right, it's not. Would Obama have blown off the Chinese president like he did Benjamin Netanyahu, you know, for a pickup game or whatever he left for? Sometimes actions speak louder than words, and in this case, and in every case with the president, words don't even need to be spoken, because his actions say it all. But before we rush into this whole Arab Spring thing, which, don't get me wrong, Arab Spring, it's like Irish Spring, except a little more musky. I'm telling you, somebody should start selling that. Before we rush into this whole Arab Spring thing that does sound good, we should do a little history, you know, history and right and wrong. I want to do a little test here. We're going to play a game, okay, a chalkboard game. You tell me, I'm going to give you a phrase, and you tell me who said it. Was it A, a radical Muslim cleric currently living today and part of this Arab Spring, or Adolf Hitler, the guy we all hate and think was a monster? You tell me. The Jews are the most miserly of all people and the most protective of their lives, yet they devote their lives to their money, to their cause. I would say, what do you say, Hitler? Oh, yes, miserly Jews. No, part of the Arab Spring. Okay, how about this one? Never has a state been founded on peaceful economic means, but always exclusively by the instincts and preservation of the species, regardless whether these are found in the province of heroic virtue or the cunning craftiness. The one results in Aryan states based on work and culture, the other in Jewish colonies of parasites. Well, he says Aryan, which is Persian or Farsi for Iran. But I'm going to go with Hitler. Yeah, I got one. Let's hear that. I'd like to say the only thing I hope for is that as my life approaches its end, I have an opportunity to shoot the enemies, the Jews. That's a trick one, because you've seen him say that. Yes, Mr. Arab Spring himself. Kill the Jewish Zionists, every last one of them. This Jewish contamination will not subside. This poisoning of the nation will not end. Not until the carrier himself, the Jew, has been banished from our midst. Could be either of them, couldn't it? Oh my gosh, I really thought it was Hitler. Wrong again. There's no place for you among us, and you have no future among the nations of the world. You are headed towards annihilation. Hitler, right? No, no. No, just a crazy leader of Hamas, which is nothing for you to worry about. They are not anything for you to worry about. Nothing. Nope. Don't worry. It's an Arab Spring. There's going to be freedom. There's going to be economic growth. It's going to be great for all of us. Probably not so great for the Jews. But let me show you this. Those boards over there, that was Hitler's rhetoric before the mass graves started. The clerics today are no better. I think some of them are worse. And Hitler was the biggest monster of all time. Now let's take a look at another kind of rhetoric today, shall we? This last part that I just showed you Hitler and those who are part of this Arab Spring are one and the same. It is the same old hatred. Wait until you see next week when we show you more of this. But I want to show you today, present day. I want to show you present day America, because there's a second part of this. There's the second part of this argument. That's just the ugly rhetoric, get the Jews. But there's a second part, and that second part is always compassion. Sure, you can be an evil monster, but if you're an evil monster, then everyone will know. No, you can't do that. You have to be a compassionate evil monster. So you can kill a bunch of people before anybody says, hey, wait a minute, I think he's killing a bunch of people. The compassion argument. That's a very important part. It was in Germany. Hitler started the T4 euthanasia program for the physically or mentally disabled, the emotionally distraught, the elderly people. Oh, we're just doing what they coined mercy killings out of compassion. Oh, gee, Mr. Angry Hitler, is it really about compassion? I'm going to give you the compassion argument. And remember this. First, they came for the Jews, and I said nothing. Well, who do they come for next? Well, remember, they're the little Satan. We're the great Satan. You take care of the little Satan first, and you kind of try it out, right? You know what I mean? See if you can, fool the great Satan. Well, you saw the rhetoric of the past. It's the same. Well, what is the main complaint now against Israel? The one that all the decent people, not the monsters, the decent, the compassionate people are making. They stole this land. They're occupiers. They're just, all these are good, just decent people that are just trying, that's all this is. They just, okay, sure, they cut through the fence and went underneath the fence and they wouldn't stop and everything, but they're just good, decent people with compassion. That argument kind of sounds familiar, doesn't it? What's the argument on our southern border right now? Well, they're occupiers. They stole the land from Mexico. And they're just good, decent people that are here, and I just... You think those might be related? No. No, and I'm a hate monger for even saying that. I want to show you what's happening here in America today. I want to show you how these two things are connected. And I want to show you, because it's amazing, if you know about history, if you've actually read history, you can see what the people said back then. And this is from the New York Times. Hitler explains himself. Oh, does he, the New York Times? I'll see if there's any parallels to today next. I can hardly wait to read the New York Times from 1933. Hitler is explained. It's great. But first, what we're doing is we're comparing now history for this new great Arab Spring that the president's going to talk about. History yesterday, history back behind me is the leaders of the Arab Spring and talking about how they want to kill the Jews and explaining that the Jews are vermin, which is exactly the same what Hitler said. But don't worry, Hitler was a monster. Arab Spring you should enjoy, you should embrace. Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. First, I want to show you, I talked about the borders and said first they come for Israel, the Jew, and then they come for us. And they're using exactly the same words and tactics. I said earlier this week that I'm telling you these two movements are going to be joined. How do I know that? Because the Weather Underground told us that in the 1970s, that this is what they would try to do. Well, let's check out an event held now at the University of Arizona. Denying Ethnic Studies, Arizona to Palestine. Now, so you know this video, it all comes from this rage here. These are the ones that are saying, I'm being denied my rights because I'm Hispanic and government is evil. And they're being taught to overthrow our government. Got it? They're teaching children to hate America. Now, back to the college event. Uniting of two things. What are they uniting? This event was scheduled to promote two struggles united. May I quote? Combat racist attacks on ethnic studies and their right to their cultural education, and Palestinian students fight to retain their cultural personhood and humanity in midst of brutal U.S.-backed Israeli military occupation. Come hear how they unite in their struggles. Oh, I can't wait to see how Ward Churchill and other communists and America haters have tied it all together. The speakers were from Tucson High School. I hope they got the really angry kid. His parents must be so proud. And also kids from Birzeit University in Ramallah, which they label Israeli-occupied Palestine. Arab Spring. The same group was also responsible for organizing this. It's a mock wall on the Arizona campus to represent Israel's wall and the U.S.-Mexico border wall, which we don't have. The goal, quote, to spotlight the lethal effects of U.S. militarization and immigration and border enforcement, all those policies in Arizona, and the U.S.-Israeli-occupied Palestine. Yeah, one of the students described it this way.
Some people might say it's offensive, you know. Some people might say it's unnecessary. However, it's not as offensive as the real walls, like Israel's Palestine wall or our border wall.
Yes, I was thinking nothing like that, but yes. We showed you the protest yesterday at Pastor Hagee's church in which they yelled, "How many acres have you stolen?" And that got my wheels churning. Here it comes. But the students in Tucson, the one thing you haven't heard is how many acres have you stolen? None. 50,000 acres, America. Most of it in Texas has already just kind of been given up to Mexico, just been given up on. It's the same argument. That's what they're trying to get Israel to do now. Give up land. That's what they're trying to get us to do. Give up land. Israel's giving up land. We're giving up land. But Israel's the occupier. They're the oppressor. They're the thief. Wait a minute. We're the occupier. We're the oppressor. We're the thief. Wow. Little Satan, great Satan. You see it? Is it coming together? This is why you must take a stand. This is why you must not allow this to creep. The words behind me are the reason why you can't ever let this creep. Ever. It's the same group of people. We as a globe vowed never to let this happen again. There were warning signs back in the 1930s. How do I know? Well, we do our homework. This example from the New York Times, October 1933. They wrote a piece on Hitler's autobiography, and they said, quote, "We know, on undoubted authority, that the very events themselves that the Jews are today relentlessly, coldly persecuted in Germany, and there's enough proof there." Yeah. But The New York Times softened its tone because economic prosperity was returning. So no serious opposition was mounted to Hitler. The Times highlighted the good parts of Hitler. I didn't know there were any. Hitler is doing much for Germany, quoting the Times, his unification of the Germans, his destruction of communism, his training of the young. That's a good thing. His creation of a Spartan state animated by patriotism. That's a good thing. His curbing of paramilitary government or parliamentary government, so unsuited to the German character, you know. His protection of the right of private property, all good. And after all, what the Germans do in their own territory is their own business. You know what I'm saying? What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Okay, maybe the, quote, the persecution and the practical expulsion of the Jews. Maybe not that. Okay, let me say, to summarize, I think what they have, Hitler is really great. Have you seen Germany and all the happy people? Okay, the Jew thing is really bad, but have you seen all the happy people? Let me ask you, if I ask the president or most people in this administration or in Congress today on the left what they see happening in Egypt, wouldn't they say, okay, I mean, what's happening in Egypt is great. Have you seen all the people? Okay, the Jew thing is bad, but have you seen all the happy people? That's exactly what they'd say. It's the same thing. Some of the happy people, you remember, were raping Laura Logan from CBS News while screaming, Jew, 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 in that square on that day. Could we get any more comparisons? And do I need to explain any more why it is time to restore courage and take a stand? Enough is enough. But I'm telling you, the hatred of old will come back again. And are we going to repeat the same pattern? Because the world knew it. They knew it. Germans knew it. The rest of the world knew it. But they chose to ignore it. You know it now. I know it. They know it. Will we repeat the choice of the past and choose to ignore it this time? I can't tell the difference between al-Qaradawi and Hitler. Can you? The world knows these people are serious. 9/11, the suicide bombings, they kill. That's what they do. We know they mean it. So why are we ignoring it this time? Let me tell you. I told you about E4, enlightenment, education, empowerment, and entrepreneurship. E2 is education. It's important that you know history. Generations from now, maybe one generation from now, maybe your children, if nothing changes in a short period of time, will think that arbitrary killings are happening because of the Israelis, just gunning down innocent Palestinians. And they'll also believe, our children, that America are occupiers. They're occupiers. They stole all that land. Many of our kids are already on that road. How did it happen? Well, I think Barack Obama knows. I mean, his wife knows. I'm sure they talk from time to time. Shortly before she was yanked from the campaign trail, here's what she said, that Barack would have to change our traditions and history. Listen.
And Barack knows that we are going to have to make sacrifices. We are going to have to change our conversation. We're going to have to change our traditions, our history. We're going to have to move into a different place as a nation.
I have to tell you, the more this president does, the more he starts to look like the New York Times in 1933, or worse yet, Neville Chamberlain. In 70 years from now, no, in 20 years from now, people will say, and many of them will be older versions of us, how did we not see that coming? And in 70 years, the whole world will say, how did the people of the world not see it coming? The answer is, you choose to bury your head or look it in the eye. Come on, America. Be the America I know you are. Look them in the eye. If you know history, you know these quotes from Hitler and Hamas. They both happened in the last 100 years, and the world vowed never to let Hitler happen again. And yet here we are turning a blind eye, and the president speaks tomorrow about a glorious Arab Spring that everyone should enjoy. everyone perhaps except Americans and Jews, or maybe gays as well, because they'll be stoned to death as well. How about little girls? How about women that walk out without a man in the street? How about that Arab Spring? Explain it to me, please. I'd love to hear it. How we can just shrug off the calls to exterminate Jews and annihilate them, wipe them off the earth, or have people call them vermin or bacteria, and then give a great speech about the great Arab Spring. I'll wait for your call, Mr. President. I've been waiting for some time. America, we don't have museums for our entertainment. It is so well documented, the history of the Holocaust, so it doesn't happen again. We swore we would never let it happen again. Shouldn't we be just a tad hesitant about supporting all the people who are expressing desires to kill mass amounts of Jews? All in the name of compassion. People are right now praying that nobody wakes up. Are you awake? They're praying that you are not taught history. I am telling you right now, if you're in the D.C. area, you go see the best museum in D.C. It's the Holocaust Museum. You must see it. And if you're in any other city, look for a Holocaust museum in your city. Take your kids. They're horrifying, but this must be remembered because of the great Arab Spring. They are also hoping the same thing here on our borders, that you will not remember. How can people not be offended at the parallels here? How can people not see it? And how can you not be offended by America being called the oppressor? Really? Wouldn't it be nice if a history class for once would talk about what America has brought the rest of the world, what the world would look like if America didn't exist? How many Jews would be alive today if America didn't exist? We have made a lot of mistakes, but our good is far outweighs the bad that we have done, and we try not to repeat the mistakes of the past. How is it that we're changing? How is it we're changing our traditions and we're changing in our classrooms? Oh, I remember now. We see it more and more in our classrooms if we don't get involved. Remember, this is a teacher in California here.
This is not just about Mexico. This is about a global struggle against imperialism and capitalism. Yes. But we know that all of that is happening in the context that where we now stand is stolen, occupied Mexico.
You could transplant him over to the Middle East. We are being re-educated to believe that America isn't all she's cracked up to be. Free markets don't work. Capitalism has failed. America is the occupier. We are changing history, and no one says anything about it. You must stand. Restore courage in your own life and stand. Back in a minute. Okay, I have a story that is guaranteed to make your eyes bleed. You know what? Actually, your head may explode, so you might want to just wrap it up in duct tape right now. To me, the head exploding or the bleeding eyes should cross all political and ideological lines, but we'll see. In Michigan, Leroy Fick. He's a man who was on food stamps, but he won $2 million on a lottery show last June. There he is, with long hair looking like Colonel Sanders and everything. It's a nice story, right? Won $2 million so he can change his life, get off food stamps. No, not for Leroy. No. He's still on food stamps, and he has no plans to get off them either. A local reporter caught up with him.
This guy won $2 million, driving around in an Audi convertible, and he's collecting our tax money on food stamps. What would you say to those people? Do you think it's ethical?
From my point of view, I think so. You're going to sit there and try to make me feel bad. You aren't going to do it. It ain't going to happen. So you might as well just ship on out. Goodbye.
Oh. God bless America, land that I used to really like a lot. Now I'm kind of questioning what has happened to us. We're falling apart at the seams. Apparently, part of Leroy's rationale for not feeling badly about being a millionaire and eating on taxpayer-funded food stamps is the amount of tax that he had to pay on his winnings.
Like I said, they took over half of it.
Yes, Leroy. Welcome to the wonderful world of paying taxes. It's called paying your fair share, you moron. Yeah, they took over half. But you still haven't paid your fair share, Leroy, have you? Isn't that something? How weird? And you know what's weird? You went on a game show to win yours. Others work every day and still have half of it taken. And then they don't get food stamps. It's crazy. The Department of Human Services in Michigan has even told him that he can continue to use food stamps since he received the lotto winnings in just one lump sum of just $850,000. What? Excuse me? Huh? Now Leroy has a new Audi convertible. Oh, that's sweet. Don't you wish you had one? Yeah, and didn't have to work for food? Yes. He's angry. He has to pay taxes. May I just point out this, I think, signals the death of honor, shame, personal responsibility. What do you say, the whole kit and caboodle here, huh? There is a sliver, and I'm hoping it's not a big, huge wedge of pie, of our society that no longer cares about anything but themselves. It's fascinating that Leroy doesn't want to pay his fair share, even with a small fortune. Just hand it to him. No, he's angry. He's angry. He's been kept down, I bet. Yeah, looking like Colonel Sanders. That ain't easy. But what he's saying is really the same kind of thing that we heard from students that were in our audience on Friday. What do you have to do? You have to pay your fair share? I want to show you some footage taken by conservative students at UC Merced. It's on their website at exposingleftists.com. They appeared on my show last night. Watch this.
You have a 4.0? Yeah, it's an excessive GPA. So we're going to basically emulate the federal tax structure. And we tax the rich to help those in lower income brackets. Basically the same thing. Like, do you really need a 4.0?
Yeah. And I understand the money version of it, but the educational version,
I feel like it's the same thing because you earn both, right?
It's not the same thing because money's different.
Money's completely different. Stop this. You go to their website. Stop this, please. Go to their website. There's also another one where they're asking students, hey, will you pay your fair share of the deficit? I ain't paying that. Yeah, you know what's weird? This is that Michael Moore mentality. He explains it in, dude, where's my country? I keep telling him, Cuba is still there, but he doesn't listen. The idea is you can't get rich. You can't get rich through hard work and determination and a different idea and doing it better than everybody else. You can only get it through winning the lotto. That's the only way I'm going to get ahead, or stealing it, or taking it because I've been kept down. If that's what a good number of people believe in this country, I don't even recognize my country anymore. I mean, my initial answer is, no, it's not a big wedge of our country, but I don't know. I believe my country, at least, is not the freaks that I see on TV. Like, you get out of here, I'm eating food stamps in my Lexus. No. It's not the special interest groups. My country is very large. Most of my country never gets on TV. You know why? Because they're boring. Boring as snot. They're average, they're decent, they're hardworking, they go to church. Some of them go to church and then don't really live the lifestyle, but they're boring. And they work all the time. That's America. And I believe that number is growing. I received a book from a listener last week, and it is called The Light of Faith. It's a really old book. I don't even know if you can find it anymore. I talked about it with my staff before I came into the studio because there is something in there that I want you to see. And then I want to tell you when we come back about this book. But find out about the other one at glennbeck.com right now and see what I took away from that. Back in a minute. Here's a story that demands not the question, what would Jesus do, because that's pretty obvious, but what would you do? Remember, America is great because America is good. At a Valero gas station in Los Angeles last Sunday, where gas was supposed to be $4.29 a gallon, a glitch in the system caused customers just to be charged $1.10 per gallon for premium unleaded. Premium. Now, the price of the sign was $4.29. Everybody knew there was no advertised sale. It was clearly marked $4.29. They pulled up, they started pumping, and they could see they filled their tanks for $20 instead of about $65. No one said anything. They just drove away with the savings. No one went inside. If it was a sale, say, hey, thank you very much for the low prices from like 15 years ago. What's the deal? No. From 8:30 in the morning till 11:30 in the morning, the gravy train continued. 7,000 gallons were pumped at $1.10 a gallon. For perspective, that's about 350 cars on empty. So it may have been 350 or may have been more that came in and pumped it and knew. Well, who lost the money? The station owner lost $21,000 in 3 hours. His name is Kenny Nguyen. He's a Vietnam immigrant, makes 7 cents per gallon. But the overriding point here is, shouldn't we have helped him? Don't we have a moral obligation to know? I mean, to be honest with each other in our business dealings? We knew. Anybody who pumped knew. They had no moral obligation. I spent my lunchtime today reading this book. I challenge you to read this book. George Washington's Rules of Civility. I got to tell you, living a life like this would be really hard in today's world. I made some notes in here today. I don't know how I can do that one, but I'm going to. What kind of chance do we have to restore our nation if we're just in it for ourselves? Restore ourselves. Restore some civility. Challenge. Try to do it. Welcome once again to Federal Crime Watch. Last night we told you about the Amish. Unpasteurized milk, the menace. The FDA is neutralized. Tonight, happy to report, this man. 13-year-old man. Anyway, this man has been neutralized by the United States Secret Service. That's right. His name, Vito LaPinta. Sounds to me like a mobster, Vito. He was interrogated in his middle school by Secret Service agents without his mother's permission after posting a message about Osama bin Laden on Facebook. After bin Laden's death, Vito wrote on his Facebook page that President Barack Obama should be careful. Here's Vito in his own words, warning small children should leave the room before hearing this vitriol.
I was saying how Osama is dead and for Obama to be careful because there might be suicide bombers. A man walked in a suit and glasses. And he said that he was part of the Secret Service. I was very scared.
Scared? That's funny, Vito. We're the ones who should be scared until you're behind bars. We aren't sure if this kid had any weapons or nuclear devices or, heaven forbid, unpasteurized Amish milk. But we're all hoping that this kid soon looks like this. That's right. Once again, your federal government hard at work. Another menace to society neutralized. Thanks again, Barack Obama. You know, I told you a minute ago I was reading George Washington's Rules of Civility, which I don't think that last break would fit. I wrote in here someplace when I was reading this today about how I just don't think, I don't know how you can do this anymore, but we have to find a way. One was, when you see justice executed on any, you might inwardly take delight in this. To punish offenders tends to quiet the public. Yet show pity to the offender and never constitute the defect on his morality as a precaution. It's your precaution. I read that today and I thought about how we all behaved and how we all felt with Osama bin Laden's death. And I wondered, how would George Washington feel about that? I think he would be pretty happy. But he sure wouldn't have shown it. Then I saw the story about the church that asked to pray for Osama bin Laden. You know, I don't know all the details of that particular church and what they were doing, but boy, that never even crossed my mind. I prayed for our soldiers that night, I prayed for our president that night, prayed with the family, but I didn't pray for Osama bin Laden. I think it's a little too late for him, but didn't pray for him or his family. Maybe George Washington would say shame on us for that. From New York, we'll see you tomorrow night. Good night, America. Hi from Brazil. But remember, Soros was D-O-N-E, done. I'm done with Petrobras. Remember? Petro who? I don't even know what you do. Here's the latest headline from Forbes. Soros builds on Petrobras, the holdings in the first quarter. So wait a minute, he sold it when we exposed it, then the president did it, and then he bought back in. Wow, I thought he was all done with that. Huh. Now he only owns 1.1 million shares of the company. What is to look at here? I had nothing to do with it. I'm sure you didn't. It's not connected in any way, shape, or form at all to the administration's continued support of the Brazilian oil company that you're a big, huge investor in. No. And no way connected to the expanding of the offshore deepwater drilling stuff. No. Stop it. You are a crazy tea partier. That's what you are. Get out of here, knucklehead. Hello, America. America, good to have you here. I want you to mark your calendars and get ready to gather around your radio and television sets like the good old days. Because you're going to hear the voice of our president tomorrow. He is going to grace America with his words. Tomorrow, very, very important speech. It is his historic speech. That's why he's booked it for 11:40 a.m. Eastern Time. President Obama is going to address the nation on the historic moment for opportunity that we have in the Middle East. Oh, be still my heart, he's not going to talk about that Arab Spring, is he? He's going to briefly touch on the Israeli-Palestinian peace talks. But then the focus, according to the spokesman, Jay Carney, will be this.
An opportunity for us to explain to the world what our values are and the values and the principles that we bring to the region as we decide what policies this administration, this country should pursue to support that change.
Okay, I'm so glad to hear this because I don't even know what our values and principles are in the Middle East. I have no idea. I can't wait to hear them. Do you know what our values and principles are anymore? Do you? Because I do know the president is going to announce debt cancellation, which I was very excited to hear because I thought, oh, thank goodness somebody's going to cancel our debt. Whew. And then I realized, no. We're canceling their debt, which means we just eat it in the end. And he's also going to be reprogramming the financial aid packages to the region. Yeah, at first that might sound good too, but then you realize it's Barack Obama, and so what is he doing? He's going out to King Abdullah. Yesterday he pledged $1 billion, your tax dollars, to Jordan. I don't have that, do you? Part of that package involves us sending them 50,000 metric tons of wheat. That is a nice gesture. I mean, it would be completely insane for a country to do that, if it had just crashed through the debt ceiling and borrowing everything from China. I mean, we got nothing on us, And let's say, I don't know, let's just say there was like a 500-year size flood that was happening on hundreds of miles of, let's call it the Mississippi River, destroying hundreds of thousands of acres, causing about $2 billion in crop damage alone, costing billions in lost transportation delays. And, of course, we have the whole food shortage scare anyway. It'd be crazy if any of that stuff was happening, to send all that wheat over to Jordan, to feed them a special program. Do you remember way back when we showed you how George Soros was pumping money into Petrobras? That's the Brazilian oil company. But then he announced, I sold my spooky dude shares of Petrobras, and he was out. So it was totally cool. Everybody could relax. There's nothing to see here, people, when President Obama indicated that he was helping Petrobras secure loans. Then he approved a permit for the Brazilian oil company so they could store some of its oil in the Gulf of Mexico, which we can't do, while at the same time stopping American companies from doing that very thing with a moratorium that has destroyed at least 19,000 jobs. Remember all that? Then, do you remember when President Obama went to Brazil when we started bombing Libya? He was like, I gotta go kick the soccer ball in Brazil. Remember that? That's when the president congratulated the country on its recent oil discoveries, saying that we want to be Brazil's best customer. And I'm thinking, no, we don't. We want to sell to Brazil, not buy.